Hello, I'm Connor Lifson, and this is TABLEWORK, a TAPS podcast series where we interview the artists and theater makers behind our productions on what it takes to get their productions from the page to the stage. This episode features Michael Rau, assistant professor of directing and theater making at Stanford. Join us as he talks about his upcoming production of Witch on the TAPS main stage. Witch opens March 6th in the Elam Theater. Hi, Michael. I am so happy to be in conversation with you about your upcoming production of Witch. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Could you start off by just telling us a little bit about Witch?
Sure. So it's a play written by Jen Silverman. It was written in, I think, 2018, and it's a story about basically the devil shows up in town and offers people a deal where he will have their souls in exchange for one thing. And several people in that town make deals with the devil, and one woman has a long conversation about what and why and what she could get with her soul.
And what made you choose this piece in particular?
So it's a weird play about Faustian bargains. It's a play about the kind of systems that we all live in and how we struggle against it. And kind of for me, and I know for Jen as well, at its heart, it's a play about hope. And more importantly, it's a play about hope, about how hope is evil and destructive and dangerous, because all of the people in this town who sell their soul to the devil, the thing that the devil, this main sales pitch that he uses again and again and again is, don't you wish that things were just a little bit better? Don't you wish that you could just change something about your life? And usually just 5 minutes after that, people are like, yeah, you can have my soul. I just want this thing. I want to change either the world or the way I am or the way that other people are. And that's what a soul is worth. And that idea that hope for something different, a hope for something to change, can be destructive and violent and hurtful and wrong is really interesting to me. And it's really interesting to kind of have it here with the Stanford community where we unquestioned, and I do this too, like I spent most of my life not questioning this idea until I read this play, and I was like, oh no, maybe wishing that things could be different is dangerous, can be destructive, can lead me to actually ignore the world as is, or what I do have. And so that's I think part of the interesting dialogue that I hope this play provokes with the Stanford community.
Oh, that's fascinating. The dark side of hope. It's not something anyone ever talks about, actually,
No.
really, which is, I think, a great reason to do this play.
Yeah.
I understand that it's a retelling of some sorts of a Jacobean drama.
Yes.
Okay.
So there is a play called The Witch of Edmonton that was written in 1621 that was based off of an actual witch trial that happened 2 years earlier. And so as part of the research for this production, the cast has read that original testimony of Elizabeth Sawyer, who was the accused witch, that happened in 1620 something. And then they also read this other play that was based off that testimony called The Witch of Edmonton that is a huge mess of a play. It was written by 3 different people. It's insane. And it's about a woman who starts off just as an outcast, like people don't like her, but then the devil shows up to her as a big black dog, and they have a whole conversation. And eventually the devil convinces her, well, if everyone hates you, you might as well just sell your soul to me and be a witch, and then you can finally enact your revenge. And so it's this weird, and then that's just like the B plot. There's a whole other A plot about a different guy, and there's murders and all kinds of crazy stuff. And so it's this huge, weird mess of a play. And Jen was commissioned to do an adaptation of that play. And in talking to Jen about it, they said that they just wrestled with that and ended up making a piece that has characters that have the same names, that is has elements of the original Jacobean play, like, and the stage directions say then-ish and now-ish in terms of where the play is set, um, but also uses that play to kind of look at the systems that we live in now and the ways in which we are still shaped by ideas that were around in the 1600s around men and women and power and patriarchy and inheritance and money and all of that stuff.
Hmm. That's fascinating. So are you in this production, are you setting the play in the 1600s, or is the play set in today, or it's an ish in between
It's an
these?
ish in between.
Cool. I bet that's exciting from a design perspective.
I mean, the design part of it uh, is pretty then-ish, because when you read the play, like, there's no references to the nowish in terms of the world. Like, people in Jen's play ride horses, eat at banquets, no one has a cell phone or talks about, but the language that Jen gives these characters who are kind of like come from the 1600s is the kind of contemporary language that you and I would use. So they will say to each other, "Oh, this sucks," and so that it feels almost like there is uh, a kind of world of the 1600s that is being translated to an audience right now, and that disjunct, I think, is kind of one of the points that Jen is making with this play, is that we're still here, or that time, as Jen kind of says, like, time is fluid, and the stuff that was built before us, we are still grappling with here and now. And if we can just hear in our words what these people were grappling with, we'll realize that we haven't moved forward at all.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking midway through your rehearsal process.
Yeah.
And like you're at this moment that's like design has not been brought into the world, and you've still got over a month left until you open. So I'm curious about, like, what are you looking forward to in this final month or so of rehearsal before the world explodes with design?
I mean, I'll be honest, like, the design of it has already started to, like, percolate itself into um, this production. I think the thing um, that I appreciate about this play, that I really am looking forward to, is that Jen talks in their work about intimacy. That what for them a play is that sense of intimacy. Jen writes novels and operas and TV shows and works in a whole bunch of other mediums. But when I asked them about what makes a play, they said it's that sense, that electricity, that energy that comes uh, with two people feeling something intimate in front of an audience, or this sense of intimacy that an audience shares with the actors on stage. And that quality, that kind of electricity in the room, where you get that sense of, like, oh my God, something is really happening right now, is the thing that I'm really kind of like looking forward to.
Do you feel like obviously things change when you have an audience in the room that doesn't know the play, and in some ways the director's job is to kind of stand in for that audience? Like, how do you rehearse for that electricity even if it's not present in the room, or do you find ways to make it present in the rehearsal room before there's an audience?
Yeah, I have a rule in my rehearsals that there's no distinction between a rehearsal and a performance, and that, as I said to the actors, we should feel comfortable letting people walk in off the street and watch a rehearsal and feel everything that they would feel in a performance, and that things might change and things might be different between now and then, or the staging might be different, but the commitment, the electricity, the excitement, that charged space of it should be there each time we try to do the play, which is a tall order, and it asks a lot of the students and the performers and everyone to kind of like bring that. But I think that's one of the things that I for me at least, I really want to like develop those muscles for these students to have. And the only way you can do it is to ask for it and to like say, what if it's here every day? Can we ask it to be here every day?
Oh, I love that a lot. Okay, switching gears, are there, without too many spoilers, obviously,
Okay.
are there any like technical or design elements or material elements that you're particularly excited about that our audience might be keen on?
I mean, the stage rotates,
Oh,
so there's always that. We're using the turntable that's been built into the Elam Theater, um, and so this is a play that moves back and forth between two locations for the entire show. It just goes A B A B A B, and working with Nina, the set designer, that became the quickest and easiest and most elegant way to kind of like flip flop between these two worlds and to make that transition seamless as opposed to watching people move chairs every single time we go back and forth.
how are you rehearsing? Is the turntable functional yet? Like, are you rehearsing
It
on the
should be
turntable?
functional in a week.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
So what do you do before? Like, how do you rehearse those transitions?
Rehearse the transitions. I'm just going to focus on the scene work until the turntable shows up, and then I'm going to deal with like
great.
how we get from A to B.
Great. So this is kind of a amorphous question, so you can take this wherever you'd like.
Okay.
Some people ask, what do you want your audience to take away from the show? And I
Uh-huh.
feel like sometimes that's a tricky thing to ask because there's no way you can predict like what an audience is going to take away because everyone's different. So I'll ask, like, what kind of experience do you want to create for your audience?
I think Jen's play is provocative, but it's provocative in the way that the provocation comes on the back end. So the play is a comedy, it's a dark comedy, and there are a lot of jokes. And what the idea around like what I want the audience to experience, or the way that I've been thinking about this play, is that there should be moments where you are laughing at something, where you're seeing these characters, maybe you're recognizing yourself in these characters and laughing along at that, but then there's a kind of like bitter aftertaste maybe to that joke that makes you go, oh wait, oh no, that is me, or that is the thing that I've said or thought or felt. And what I think is one of the things that theater can do really beautifully is give you a space to examine the things about yourself, not by staring at yourself in a mirror, but looking at somebody else who's doing something similar and letting you have a little bit of friction or diffraction of those feelings, and maybe learn something about yourself from that. Like, I don't know if this should be part of the podcast, but I'm increasingly less and less of a believer in the idea that art can affect political change or like change the systems that we live in, and more a believer in that art is a place that allows you to confront yourself, to listen to yourself, to see yourself, and whatever the heck the thing is that you're looking at, a painting, a piece of music, a performance, that whatever those quiet reverberations from your encounter with that object, to whatever is going on inside you, that is the value of it, that's the beauty of it. And so my hope for an audience is that they have some of that experience. Not that this play makes you be like, I can't have hope anymore, or I shouldn't believe in hope anymore, but instead gives you a little bit of time and space to sit and listen to yourself.
That's beautiful, and I very much agree.
Thanks.
Well, great. I am so incredibly excited to see Witch opening on March 6th in the Elam Theater. More details are listed in the podcast description for anyone who'd like to snag a ticket. Thank you so much, Michael, for chatting with me today, and I can't wait to see it in a few weeks.